South. So I'm going now to the depths of the South, to Lawrence, to cross now to Mark Patterson, New Zealand First Spokesman for Agriculture. Good evening, Mark. It's a pleasure to have you on Sarah's Country.
Good evening, Sarah, and thanks for the opportunity.
No, it's great. Now, Mark, I thought no one from National's going to talk to me tonight, and David Seymour would just talk around the subject. So I knew you'd give me some straight answers with regards to what is happening in Parliament at the moment and the prospects for the rural vote.
Yeah, well, no worries at all. Clearly, you're looking at it, Sarah, but aware. Of course, a pillar of stability at the moment. So, yes. But, yeah, clearly a tumultuous time in politics in a number of ways. And who would have seen this morning's announcement coming? And the National Party will be looking long and hard at the moment. There's some big decisions in front of them.
Let's tribute firstly to Todd, and thoughts with him and his family at the moment. A big decision to make. Mark, I know that you would have had a lot to do with Todd in his role, also a spokesman for agriculture for the National Party. Was he just not ready for it? Should he have stayed in that safe position of spokesman for agriculture and potentially Minister of?
Yeah, look, I think, the benefit of hindsight's a wonderful thing. But, yeah, I did have quite a working relationship with Todd. I had a lot of time for him. In fact, if I'd have been in the National Party benches, I would have seen him as the natural leader. But clearly he hadn't been forged under the pressure of being a senior cabinet minister previously, or even a front bench member of Parliament that was in the opposition, constantly asking questions at question time or whatever. So it's quite a different. You've got to be much more reactive and quick on your feet when you're in your role as agricultural spokesperson. It's something you'll know inside out, and you'll be able to deal with any questions. But stuff comes at you from all angles when you're the leader, and you've got to be able to sum up very quickly and be able to be sure-footed. And clearly, he just struggled to make that mark.
Now, we'll just stay lastly on the National Party politics before, of course, delving into deeper issues, Mark. But you made an interesting choice, probably again in hindsight, to leave that Clutha Southland electorate with that division following Hamish Walker's resignation. You're probably kicking yourself now?
Oh, no, well, I'm very happy where I am. But, yeah, it has been a bit of a revolving door down here, and once again, Hamish is someone I knew quite well and worked well with. Him and his wife Penny, we got on well. So I feel sorry for Hamish. He worked really hard and obviously made a grave error and paid that price, but he'll be feeling for it. But it's a tough game, politics, and you're only really one slip away from ending your career, I guess, and it all plays out in public. So at a personal level, it's pretty tough. But it's not tiddlywinks either, and we're here to make serious decisions, and you've just got to be able to handle that sort of pressure and show good judgment.
Now, potentially the end of a career, but I mean, you never say never with your leader, Mr. Winston Peters. Heard him earlier on Heather du Plessis-Allen's show on News Talk say the words, "We need a stable government and we need it now," alluding to the fact that your current coalition government isn't. Making those harsh decisions, those big decisions. New Zealand First in the last wee while are basically keeping themselves quite open, Mark. What's your thoughts on which way it could go in terms of support, or again, being very diplomatic on that?
Oh, well, I think our position's always been clear that we don't we go to the polls with our policy platform, try to get as many votes as we can, and then if we're in a privileged position to be able to be in a negotiation position, we would be prepared to work with either side. We're the only party that can, so strategically we're a very important player in this situation, I think, because let's be really honest, the National Party's in disarray at the moment. It's very hard to see that they can convince the country in about 50 odd days that when we start going to the polls that they're in the shape to run the country. They can't even organise their own caucus at this stage. So I think many of your viewers would be pretty concerned about a lurch to the left under a Labor Green government, and I think will certainly be and have proven, I think, over the last 3 years to have been a moderating influence on that. We have delivered stable government, and we would look to, we'll be putting our best foot forward, but we think we've got a real value proposition to make there.
In the last 3 years, what have some of those major challenges that you've had to really fight for have been with your hat on?
Oh, well, it's been a time of change, actually, hasn't it, in agriculture, and a lot of the big environmental policies and policy statement frameworks that have gone through, whether it be the carbon zero, the ETS, the essential fresh water. And we have been, and I think particularly myself, as a farmer of 30 years, you know exactly when this stuff comes across your desk, how it's going to wash up on farm. And we have done our best, I think, to moderate where we can, but also acknowledging that we do need to keep evolving our farming systems. And so we're not trying to be a block on progress there in any way, shape or form, but we do want to make sure any changes are pragmatic. And, to be honest, a lot of that stuff is now washed through the system, or so it should be a more stable period from farmer perspective from now on in, because we've addressed a lot of those big challenges in this parliament.
Are they fully addressed, though? I mean, there's a lot of rushed, urgent policy still going on, and particularly in the Forestry Amendment Bill.
Still beg your pardon, Sarah, you've just broken up.
Yep.
A little bit.
I just said in regards to the rushed Foresters Amendment Bill, that has been the latest thing. I worry a lot about what is happening when media are, of course, attention diverted to a lot of just general politics that is going on of the day.
Oh, the Forestry Bill, yes, that's, for Parliament, obviously, at the moment. It has had a bit of pushback, but it's actually had a reasonable amount of support too. I think there is some stuff there that needs sorted out in terms of the log traders. We really want to add some more value to the onshore. I mean, it's a huge wasted opportunity seeing those rural logs go off. So for a bit more security of supply for our domestic processors, which is the underlying theme behind this, will be a positive thing. Whether we've got it quite landed quite right yet, I guess that's playing out at the moment, but I think the intent of it is a good one.
Okay, so the level of consultation across all agricultural policies in the last 3 years, do you believe has been fair, and all the stakeholders have been heard in these decisions?
Well, certainly if you go back to the essential fresh water, that was hardly ideal, and it was us that pushed for a lengthening of that consultation process. And then, of course, it took quite a while to work its way through the system, and much of that was because we were asking the hard questions behind the scenes. So, there has been a lot of change to digest, but I think we're getting through that. And we've set ourselves up on a more sustainable pathway.
As an Otago sheep farmer, Mark, I must end on wool. What do you make of this very, very long process to get a short report of a vision that outlines a few things that we've seen before?
I think that's a fair comment. I mean, the industry's in a dire state at a time when, the product itself has probably never been better positioned in terms of, its sustainable properties, in terms of what consumers are crying out for. So there's a huge disconnect. My personal view, there's a couple of things. I mean, we've always been in favour of the government leading by example and putting wool carpets and insulation and the like in government buildings. So that's something that there is some procurement changes to government procurement policies coming. So it's a bit of a watch this space, but we'll certainly be campaigning hard on that. But the bigger picture, I think, that wasn't addressed in that report is structural reform. I think the government has to be prepared to help enable that but we also actually, just putting my farmer hat on, we've got to take some ownership of this as well. And I think there's a real need at the moment for some farming leaders to stand up and grab this by the scruff of the neck and try to get some commercial, the commercial side of it under a better structural shape. There's been some great talisman, the Delatours, Mark Shadbolt, Sandra Faulkner and Howard Gardner and the like, but I think there's others that need to step up now, and as a government, the future government after the election needs to get in behind and help enable whatever they can come up with, because we can't just keep rolling out these reports that essentially identify the same problems of fragmented supply chains and no ownership beyond the farm gate. So I think there's some good discussions going in the background, but it does need some leadership to bring them to fruition.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us, Mark. I really enjoyed having you on the program. Mark Patterson, spokesman for agriculture for the New Zealand First Party. This is Sarah's Country.